Tova, Happy New Year. We're so glad that all of you are here in this beautiful space. Our friends and our longtime members of our community, all of you joining in this way, either physically in the building or online. And so in order just to start our place here, if we could just take a moment and take a big breath. Whew, that's lots of sighs there. Ground yourself in where you are. There are lots of teachings about why Rosh Hashana comes before Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is a day of atonement. Rosh Hashana is the new year. And so you would think it'd be flipped, right? That the time for forgiveness and atonement would come first, and then you'd have something new start. But in our tradition, we flip it. And it's not just because they assume that we're, fallible humans and just going to mess up immediately. That might be one of them. But another reason is taught by Rabbi David Wolpe. And what he said is that it comes first because in order to actually do any change in the world, you have to acknowledge that you're in something precious, to have gratitude for where you are, that new beginnings come from that place, and only from that point can you decide what you're going to change about it. So in this room, there's people who've had really hard years, and there are people who have had amazing years, and then the rest of us are in between. And I'm hoping for the people who've had it really, really difficult this year, that you can find yourself in that stream of something positive. And for those of us who have great years also, to sort of root ourselves in a moment of gratitude. So to think for a minute as we start our service, before we kindle the lights, ground yourself in something you feel really grateful for that happened this year. From that space, we'll begin the kindling of the lights for this sacred day. It'll begin on page 11. If you're not used to this prayer book, we're going to shout out the numbers. We flip back and forth the whole time we're with you. And you'll have the Hebrew and the transliteration and then the translation underneath you. And you're being led by a very diverse, wonderful clergy team here. We're very excited for all of you. So we'll start on page 11 at the top together. The first mitzvah in the Torah is let there be light. So we are commanded in everything you do, be a menorah, a bringer of light. Live with honor, act with integrity, do your work with passion, and the radiance of your deeds will live after you. May our ideals burn bright, forever unextinguished. May we live our lives like the flames we kindle, always stretching upward, striving for the good, reaching for you.
Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner.
Fill the universe with majestic might, teaching us holiness through sacred obligations, giving us the mitzvah of bringing light on this festival. Source of blessing, eternal our God, you fill the universe with majestic might, giving us life, upholding the life within us, and bringing us to this time.
We'll continue responsibly on page 12. To everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. This is the season of the soul, a time to rejoice, a time to reflect, a time to return, a time to gather around the table with loved ones and friends, a a time for song and silence, for prayer and confession to the open heart, a time to retreat to our sanctuaries within, a time to renew the life and spirit of our community. This is the season of attentiveness, a time to notice what has unfolded and what has not, a time to regret, a time to forgive, a time to remember cherished dreams and high ideals erased by reality. This is the season of hope. Like mist rising at sunset, like dew descending at dawn, our hopes beautify and nourish everything they touch. Our hopes makes us partners in creation, pursuers of peace, people who aspire to a world of justice. This is the season of awe. When our eyes behold it, may we feel blessed. When we turn towards each other, let us feel strength. When we seek the holy, may we find purpose. May we find courage, and may we find love. We continue on page 15. Silently through page 19. Page 19. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, yehi ratzon shenitzke livrochtecha. Bishnat 5,083, Elohei olam, barech otanu, ve'et kol beit Yisrael, v'chudesh yameinu, v'simcha u'v'shalom, v'nechama u'ometz lev, v'chilutz atzamot uvruach etana. Yehi pri sifatenu mikupal v'ratzui milfanecha, Bifros Hashana HaCharasha La'ad Modim Anachnu Lach Al Matnat HaChayim. Our God and God of our ancestors, may we know your blessings in this year 5083. Eternal One, bless us and the whole house of Israel with renewed life, happiness and peace, comfort and courage, resilience and strength. May the words of our heart be acceptable to you in the new year that stretches before us. We are forever grateful for the gift of life. We'll continue on page 20 and rise for Baruch Hu, our call to worship.
Continue praying the words of Ma'ariv Arvim together at the bottom of page 22 in English. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God. Your great name fills the universe with majestic might. Your word creates twilight and dusk. As your wisdom opens the gates of night, your discernment separates the changing seasons and causes the passage of time. The stars arrayed across the sky reveal your design. You roll out the cycle of darkness and light, shaping day and night. You sweep away day and carry the world into nightfall, setting day apart from nighttime. You are God of all who can perceive, and all that is beyond our perception. living eternal God, be our sovereign to the end of time. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. Blessed are you, Adonai, creator of twilight and dusk. Page 24.
אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, עמך אהבת. תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בושך בנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ומצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגה יומם ולילה, נגה יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. אוהב עמו ישראל.
Page 26 for the Shema.
שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. 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 ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד.
Please be seated. We continue with the words of Ve'ahavta, chanting together in Hebrew on page 28 and then page 30 together. Please join with me. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol lavavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha vishinantam levanecha vidibarta bam bishiftecha bevetecha uvlechtecha vaderech ushochbecha uvkumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha vehayu latotafot beinenecha Uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha, page 30. Leman tizkaruhu vasitem et kol mitzvotai vitem kedoshim lelohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim Lihiot lechem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem Emet. Let us read together at the bottom of page 33 in English. 33 at the bottom of the page. You have strayed long enough in this place, God said. Time to go forward. Turn your face to the future. Believe that you can cross the sea and survive. Inside you is a Moses. Within you, Miriam dances, unafraid. Lift up your voice and sing a new song. Page 34. Pray the words of Hashkivenu together in English on page 36. Bless our sleep with peace, Adonai, and awaken us to life when we rise. With power sublime, we spread over us your shelter of shalom, and through your wisdom restore us, make us whole. Let your name proclaim your presence in our lives, be our shield, make us stronger than the enemies we face, illness and war, famine and sorrow, and stronger than the enemies in our hearts, wickedness and sin. Carry us to safety as on wings, for you are the monarch of grace, the sovereign of compassion. You are the one who cares for us and sets us free. Watch over us, we who go forth to life. Watch over us, that we may come home in peace now until the end of time. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu, va'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Blessed One, you spread over us a canopy of peace, a shelter of shalom over all Israel, your people, and over Jerusalem. We turn now to page 40 for the Chatzi Kaddish, and I'll ask Dr. Akor to lead us in it at this time.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכו בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהא שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח ויפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי קודשא בריחו. לעילם עם כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמא, ואמרו אמן.
Turn now to page 42 and rise for the Amidah. We'll join together in the Avot v'Imahot, Zochrenu, and Gvurot through page 49 together.
Adonai, sfatai tifta, ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu Yitzhak ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל, אלוהי לאה, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניכם, למען שמו באהבה. זכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל אתה רב לא הושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, זורק נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידה מלך, מלך מביט ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה. מי כמוך אל הרחמים, זוכה יצוריו לחיים ברחמים, רימון אתה לחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושי בכל יום, יהללוך הסלע.
May be seated. In February of 2020, my wife Tess and I were elbows deep in the process of wedding planning. The wedding of our dreams was just a few months away, and sure, we still had a lot to do, but we were on track and we were excited. Our shared vision for our special day was beginning to take shape in delightfully tangible ways. The service was set, the ketubah had been ordered, catering had been tasted and confirmed, and that vision continued to delight and excite us, at least for another couple weeks. It wasn't long before we, like the rest of the world, went into isolation, spending more time on the couch than we ever thought possible. And as those days stretched into weeks, the excitement that we were so full of just a month before, it transformed into fear. Fear that all of our carefully laid plans would be for naught. Fear that after 2 long years of anticipation, we wouldn't even make it to the chuppah. As March bled into April, and April into May, we grieved the loss of our wedding that we had planned, and we anxiously awaited the go-ahead from the synagogue, which would only come some 10 days before our wedding was to take place. We were angry. We were sad. Most of all, we were disappointed. The fact of the matter is that this disappointment and its intensity was a result of how we related to that which we had lost. Our reality failed to meet our expectations. This is the definition of disappointment. Our wedding was a dream, one that we cherished and worked hard to realize together, and yet, regardless of the care and attention paid to that dream, unforeseen circumstances, to say the very least, they arose. Dream met reality and found it to be wanting. I'm sure that you can all think of a particularly stinging experience of disappointment, whether recent or in the distant past. I invite you to sit with that for a moment. See if you can remember what that disappointment felt like. If you can, I invite you to join me. Let's hold out our hands. Come on. You can do it. And I want you to put that disappointment right in the palm of your hand. Turn it around. How heavy is it? Is it sharp? Maybe it's dulled over the years. Maybe it's as strong as ever. Now, in your mind, I want you to draw a line between your hand and the source of that disappointment. My guess is that line connects to something that you care deeply about. We can put them down now. On this Erev Rosh Hashana, we find ourselves gathered together once again with a shared goal: to reckon with the mistakes and disappointments of the past calendar year and to prepare ourselves to meet the year ahead. One of the core themes of this holy day rests upon renewal. The rabbis of Leviticus Rabbah, a collection of midrashic teachings, posit that Rosh Hashanah marks the anniversary of the creation of the world, and not just that, but specifically the day on which humans were created. They wrote, on Rosh Hashanah at the first hour, God thought to create humanity. At the third hour, God gathered the dust. At the fourth, God molded this dust. And at the seventh hour, God breathed life into their soul. As partners with God in the continued creation of the world, we take this to mean that the observance of Rosh Hashanah brings about an opportunity to renew, to recreate ourselves for the year to come. But you see, Rosh Hashanah is not a reset button, simply for the fact that human beings, as far as I know, do not possess a reset button. While it may bring a modicum of comfort to think about the High Holy Days as a total reboot of our spiritual operating systems, we must acknowledge much of the baggage that we bring with us into this sacred time will in fact remain when the gates of repentance close on Yom Kippur. This is especially true when we think of the pile of unreconciled, unhealed disappointments that may be accompanying us on our High Holy Day journey. So if it's the case that we are not completely reset after a handful of hours spent in prayer, no matter how diligently, that we do not get a new body, a new mind, or a new soul every year like we get a new calendar, what can we do? How are we to reckon with disappointments that weigh heavy on our soul? You see, disappointment is when lived reality fails to meet expectations. As we enter into a new year, perhaps it is not ourselves that we must reset, but our expectations. Now, when I think of resetting expectations, this old adage immediately comes to mind. Some of you might be able to guess it. If you set your expectations low, you will never be disappointed. I hate that that just came out of my mouth. Makes my stomach turn. You see, to accept that as a prescription for expectation setting, that would make for a very sad world. I want us to dream big, to expect love, to expect fairness. Now, resetting our expectations for the year ahead cannot be about low expectations. No, rather, we must be willing to be flexible. It's a mindfulness practice, one in which we tend to our expectations as they arise in a caring and mindful way. To borrow a much maligned cliche, we cannot head disappointment off at the pass. So how can we engage with inevitable disappointment in a healthy way? Well, the first thing we must do is we must name our disappointment. Although cable news would have you believe otherwise, we live in a fairly conflict-averse society. Everyone here, especially us Midwesterners, we feel that, right? It's rare for us to outright name our disappointments, to declare our disappointments. We complain, sure. We talk around them, no doubt about it. But ultimately, there's a part of us that wants our response to disappointment to be logical. And as much as we may want to reason it away, disappointment is not logical. It's a grief stage. It's the experience of mourning our expected reality, and that loss must be acknowledged if we're to heal and grow through the experience. Now do me a favor and ask for your participation just one more time. Take that disappointment in your hand. Hold it up. Turn it around. How does it feel? Now, I'm going to ask you one more thing, and this may appear to be flippant, but I am totally serious. As you can see, I had to get ready. Okay. Let's acknowledge that disappointment together. On the count of 3, I want all of us to say, I am disappointed. Okay? We're going to do it all together so you won't feel weird. All right? 1, 2, 3. I am disappointed. Whew. Felt good. You see, it's only when we acknowledge our disappointments, however deep they may be, that we begin to heal through them. We must make a choice to stay in the space to really lean into our feelings. We must be careful not to sink into total despair, of course, but we have the opportunity here to accept disappointments as a part of the process of change, renewal, and ultimately growth. When Tess and I walked down the aisle on June 6, 2020, it was not to the tune of the string quartet we had so wanted. The pews of the synagogue were not packed with friends and family the way we had imagined. And after the ceremony, we did not head across the river for a lavish reception as we had planned. Instead, we got in Tess's car, which, I will note, had been lovingly decorated by the 10 or so people who were permitted to attend the ceremony. We got in that car, and after getting out to take off all the junk they had tied onto it, we drove 25 minutes up 71 North to my parents' house, where we gathered in the backyard for a COVID-friendly and individually boxed wedding reception meal. Were we disappointed? No doubt about it. Of course. But as we sat with that feeling in the weeks and months leading up to the wedding, as we sat there and felt our feelings, we moved through our own grief. And in doing so, I found what truly satisfied me. 12 or so people in a suburban backyard, eating individually boxed meals, celebrating the love that my wife and I share. Now, we can try our best to set ourselves up for success, but inevitably, disappointment comes for us just as surely as death and taxes. This new year will be a year full of disappointment. Of that I have no doubt. But it will also be a year filled with love and joy, laughter. Disappointment is but a step in the process. We cannot eliminate it but we can move through it. It's not if reality fails to meet our expectations. It's about not calcifying ourselves within those expectations. In this way, the year ahead can appear most bright. May this be a year of meeting disappointment with love and resilience for ourselves and the world around us. Shana Tova. We'll now continue on page 66 with our prayer of peace, Shalom Rav.
We turn now to page 245. Page 245 in the middle of the page for Misha Berach Lecholim, a prayer for those facing illness and pain, who are far from wholeness and peace, those in our lives, our family members, our friends, our loved ones, community members, neighbors, and co-workers, are far from peace and wholeness in their lives, and so they deserve this prayer of healing from us. This Rosh Hashanah evening, we are praying for the healing of Barry Austern and Corinne Belford, Robert and Davida Belgrad, Deborah Birch and Ira Bluestein, Obadiah Booker and Sheila Boniface, Kenneth Bernstein, Dan Browning, Harold Beyer and Cindy Cohn, Marla Cupp and Zoe Gertie, Andy Goldstein, Charles, Hannah and Judith Gutman, Bob and Jonathan Grossman, Jennifer Hall, Elaine Heightfield, Nancy Hill, Jim Hochberg, Suzanne Horton, Sylvie and Jack Huker, Marty Ingram, Pele Jankovic, Yael Kraus and Jim Kane, Jamie Krzeski, Daniel Lassie and Joan Lieb, Steve Levinson and Barry Levy, Zila Gershon Ben Hanuch Leib HaKohen, Grayson Malkin, Eleanor Meshkow, Leslie Lisnick-Pate, Ava and Vincent Minichi, Rona McGillis, Ginny Meyer, Lou Meerman, Leslie Payne, Deb Pelletier, Phil Ryan, Joanna Reich, Evelyn Roos and Margot Rose, Larry Rubin and Rosalie Segal, Lauren Sherman, Louis Simon and Barry Simon, Jason Snyder, Charlie Spector, Sherry Stapleton, Mahea Stoneman, Jim Tanner, Tom Thornton, Stu Warschauer, Chaim Ben Yaakov and Nechama, and Gail Zachem. If you have a name of a loved one, a family member, or a friend who you know is in need of a prayer for healing, I invite you to share their name out loud or in your heart at this time. May God grant them a refuah shlema, complete renewal of body, mind, and spirit, Let us pray together the words of Misher Berach Lecholim in the middle of page 245 together. Adonai, Rofei HaCholim, we praise you, O God, who helps make hope and healing possible, to which we say, Amen. Let us now each take a moment of silent prayer and meditation.
We're going to do a lot of standing now, so just do what's right for your body and your way. We're going to be on page 75 responsibly. When you're ready, please rise or just sit up a little taller in your chair, whatever works for you and your body. We haven't forgotten Avinu Malkeinu. Though we've overthrown kings and we disobey fathers, we have no great liking for absolute power. Akiva stood before you in a time of drought, and his words went up like a flame on the altar. Avinu Malkeinu, you alone are our ruler. Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion for us. He was humble and forgiving, so his prayer was answered. Tonight we speak again in a time of drought. Dry ground beneath us, no water, only rock. Not a hunger for bread or a thirst for water, but hearts that are longing to hear God's voice. For the sea of faith is all but gone, the tide's gone out on the empty beach. The world mocks our hopes and life tests our courage. Why do the wicked live on and prosper? Why are you silent when they prey on the innocent? And if your dominion is kindness and justice, why is creation so much pain? Avinu Malkeinu, sustain our souls. Send rain to our roots, help us find a way to pray. Make us humble and forgiving of ourselves and one another. Avinu Malkeinu, renew these words. Help us speak them with the conviction and believe their truth. 100 generations have stood before the ark, and they lifted up their voices like flame on the altar, and they put their trust in kindness and justice, and they gave their strength to make the promise real. Avinu Malkeinu, we haven't forgotten. Avinu Malkeinu, bring us back to you. You can join with me in the Hebrew and the English, whatever works for you. Avinu Malkeinu, ein lanu melech ela ata. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, you alone are our sovereign. Avinu Malkeinu, lema'ancha rechem aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, for your sake, show us mercy. Avinu Malkeinu, aseh imanu lema'an shemecha. Avinu Malkeinu, act towards us as befits your name. Avinu Malkeinu, shalach refuah shlema lecholei amecha. Avinu Malkeinu, bring healing and wholeness to the ill among us. Avinu Malkeinu, kara ro'ah gezar dinenu. Avinu Malkeinu, allay the harshness of the decree against us. Avinu Malkeinu, kotvenu besefer ge'ula v'yeshua. Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in the book of redemption and renewal. Avinu Malkeinu, zochrenu b'zichron tov lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, remember our goodness and call it to mind. Avinu Malkeinu, aseh lemancha v'hoshi'enu. Avinu Malkeinu, act for your sake and save us. Avinu Malkeinu, shma kolenu. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, hear our voice. Avinu Malkeinu, chatanu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you. Avinu Malkeinu, chamol aleinu va'al olalenu v'tapenu. Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and our families. Avinu Malkeinu, kalei dever v'chara v'ra'av ma'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, halt the onslaught of sickness, violence, and hunger. Avinu Malkeinu, kalei kotsar umastim ma'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror. Avinu Malkeinu, kotvenu besefer chayim tovim. Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names the book of lives well lived. Avinu Malkeinu, chadesh aleinu shana tova. Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us a year of goodness. Avinu Malkeinu, chanenu va'anenu ki ein banu ma'asim. Aseh imanu tzedakah v'chesed v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love.
Avinu Malkeinu, chatanu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, chamol aleinu, v'alol aleinu, v'tapenu. Avinu Malkeinu, kalei dever v'cherev harav me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, kalei chotzar u'ma
We remain standing as we continue on page 82 with Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה לא יוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המולם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ביוסר הארץ ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושלינות וצו בגובי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אירון, אמת מלאנו אפת צולתו, כגות הטוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל פניך. כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
We'll continue on page 86. Birth is a beginning and death a destination. But life is a journey from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again, from health to sickness and back we pray to health, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey stage by stage a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage, made stage by stage, from birth to death, to life everlasting. In this season, we remember the yard sites, the anniversaries of the passing of Abe Simon, Bertha Barron, Bessie Cohen, Betty Felberban, Beverly Berman, Bunny Kerwin, Dr. Lenise Dolan, Dr. Leonard Goldberg, Dr. Robert Levin, Dr. William Boniface, Eleanor Dinkin, Ethel Lerner Stromberg, Eva Mumm, Herman Cohen, Jean Gotthelf, Joellen Davidoff, Judith Kahn, Marvin Wick, Morris Stein, Pauline Spector, Judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Shirley Metlin, Stanley Grimes, Sylvia Zimov, Thomas Federer. Are there other names that you're remembering you'd like to call into the space to bring that energy in here? May their memories be a blessing. If you are commemorating a yard site or you're feeling grief especially strong right now, if you would rise first. We see you in your loss. And though you stand alone, you're also standing in a community of people who see you, who understand grief, which is why we all stand up with you right now together, with words of comfort, words of affirmation. Our Kadisha tome on page 90. Yitkadal v'kadash shemei Rabba, v'alma divrach yirete v'yamlich machute, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chaye dachol be'Israel, bagala v'zman kari v'imru, Yehei shmei Rabba mevarach leolam olmei amaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei kedusha, Le'ela u'le'ela mikol brachata v'shirata, Tushbechata v'nechamata d'amiram ba'alma v'imru, Yehei shlama Rabba min shemaya, v'achayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Oseh shalom b'imromav, Huya aseh shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru.
Oseh shalom b'imromav, Huya aseh shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
May their memories be a blessing. Please be seated. We're almost to the end of our service, and we're going to close with Bashana Haba'a, which is in our handout here. So in this order of service, you kind of had to look for it. Sing loud, sing with us. We want to hear your voices.
Hashana הבאה נשב על מרפסת ונספור ציפורים נדודות. ילדים בחופשה ישחקו תופסת בין הבית לבין העדות. עוד תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. עוד תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. Soon the day will arrive when we will be together, and no longer shall we live in fear. And the children will smile without wondering whether on that day the dark storm clouds appear. Wait and see what this world there could be if we share, if we care, you and me. Oh, tire,
before we bless you, a few thank yous and announcements. You already have your brochure there, so there's lots of announcements in there. Tomorrow starts at 10 a.m. You can either stream us live, you can watch the pre-record, you can show up in person. We love everything. Also, there'll be a family interactive service led by these amazing clergy, which will be just down the hall, so bring your people. Everyone's welcome. Also, there are bags, paper bags for food, so you can take the bags now, bring them back at one of the holidays. I think just to Temple Sholom, we'll be collecting. And then tomorrow, right after services, there's tashlich, so there's a ceremony that will happen outside, and a luncheon. So let us know if you're going to attend one of those, or specifically the luncheon. Thank you so much to our amazing Temple Sholom staff, to Jenny Costello, Mary Jo McLean, Micaiah Sebastian, Batya Sullivan. Thank you, of course, to Mike Adrishal, who's making all this AV, very difficult to do all this, possible. Thank you so much for being here. To our incredible musicians, to Dr. Mark Bailey, for always gracing us. This is year number 34? 33! 33, that feels like it should be a sacred number. That's great. 33. And Dr. Allison Acord, thank you so much for bringing your gorgeous voice here. And today we had Manami White, our violinist, and Christina Coletta as our cellist. Thank you so much for lifting us in prayer in this way. Thank you, of course, to our incredible clergy, to Rabbi Simon Stratford, and, of course, his wife, Nikki, and to Rabbinic Fellow Ben Rosen for your words of Torah and disappointment and joy and how that comes together, and to your wife, Tess. Hopefully someday we'll have a big celebration for you. Thank you, of course, to our board and our committees and all our many volunteers. This is a community that's completely run by you, and so we're so thankful for all that you do. To our ushers, our welcome table, our readers, thank you. So with that, I want to leave you with a blessing like we do. It's going to be, I want to do it in English on 98, and then we'll sing together. So do whatever feels right to you. You can put your hands out to feel like you can receive. You can read along with me. You can connect to somebody near you. Whatever sort of works in your circle of love to feel like you can get a little loved on here. Okay. Our God and God of all generations before us, may it be your will in the coming year to grant us a year of abundance and atonement, a year of blessings bestowed and received, a year of community and compassion, a year of delight and exaltation, a year of enlightenment, a year of friendship and forgiveness, a year of going up in gladness, the land of Israel, a year of health and healing and humor, a year of inner strength and well-being, a year of joy and Jewish celebration, a year of knowledge and learning for its own sake, a year of love between parents and children, friends and spouses, brothers and sisters, a year of mitzvot and moments of sweetness, a year of nature protected and enjoyed, a year of optimism and hope, a year of peace pursued with perseverance, a year of quiet and tranquility, a year of rain in its season, a year of song and spiritual growth, a year of Torah study and tikkun olam, a year of understanding and unity, a year of vows fulfilled and violence overcome, a year of wisdom acquired and shared, a year of coexistence among the families of the earth, a year of young and old reaching out to one another, a year of Zion aglow with a light for us and all the world. Our God and God of the generations before us, grant us a year of gratitude to you for the most profound of blessings, your gift of life. Bless you and keep you. May God's light shine upon you, be gracious unto you. When God's light shines on you and sees all the disappointment, may make room for holding the good things in your life too. And the next time that Ben asks you to imagine something in your hand, may it be something glorious and wonderful that's all part of the darkness and light too. May you only have good things going forward. And together we say, Amen. Shana Tova. Happy New Year.